You are tuned into Power Women Unplugged, featuring live conversations with leading ladies who are making a mark.
Hi, everyone. It is so great to see all of you, here today. Appreciate it being late night for a lot of you folks in India. So I would like to welcome Chhavi Verg. Hi, Chhavi. How are you?
Hi, doing well. How are you guys?
I'm well, thank you. So for those of you that do not know Chhavi yet, Chhavi is almost a jack of all trades and nearly master of them all. A New York-based model, actress, content creator, speaker, trained Bharatanatyam dancer, and a former Miss New Jersey USA, who became the first runner-up at Miss USA, putting brown girls like us on the map. So it is so great to have you here. And I'm so excited to sort of unpack your entire journey, your career, your experiences, and just have like a fun, candid chat about the cool things you've been doing and are continuing to do. So great to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited for our talk today.
Yeah, Women's Day it's a funny time of year, isn't it? It's like, I feel like I should be celebrating a lot more than I do, because I'm like, my instinct is to like, it's just the one day and everybody's like making a big deal of it. But like, we celebrate every day, don't we? All right. So I'm going to just dive right in to the hard questions. And then if it gets too much, you could just you have achieved success in multiple fields. So whether it was modeling, acting, as a content creator, how are you able to balance these passions and stay focused? Because that's really hard to do now.
Yeah, no, it definitely is very challenging. I think it's like, I'm very grateful that all of these careers are kind of like, freestyle. There's moments when things will take off with modeling, for instance. There's moments when I'll get an audition. So it's nice to have these different things that are very flexible. You can kind of work on it as it comes up. But yeah, there are times where there's a lot on my plate. And I think the best way to get through that is just planning and prioritizing. It's kind of like, I think of back when I was in school, you know how you had like the 7 different subjects? It's kind of like my 7 different careers. And then it's like, okay, today this thing is due, tomorrow this thing is due. And like tackling each thing as it comes along.
So you get to put on your different hats every day and you decide which one it is, right?
Yeah, it's a blessing in many ways because it keeps things fresh. You don't know how the day is going to go. Like you might have something planned and then all of a sudden an audition comes up. So now you drop everything, prepare for the audition. So that is something that is really cool. At times it can also be a little stressful because, you're like, oh, I really want to do this today, but now this other thing needs my attention. So this will have to just kind of take a seat till later.
Yeah. And do you have tips for just are there any tools you use to make that easier for you?
Yeah, I think, more also on the topic of mental health, it's very important to carve out a certain amount of time for yourself in the day so that you can tackle all these things. Like, it's very easy for me to wake up first thing, check my phone, see like a whole bunch of messages because, I think a lot of people now, since COVID happened, are working remotely. The whole world is basically your workspace. So it's so easy to look at my phone, get a notification from someone who's working on India time and be like, hey, we need a response by end of day today, or like by this time, to struggle to do that. But I think just taking a set amount of time and setting that as your appointment with yourself that you have to keep, that is non-negotiable, that is non-breakable, it really sets yourself up for success. So for me, I am very on top of meditation. I need to meditate every day. Even if I don't have time, I just try to take 5 minutes just to breathe. I think that is the bare minimum that you can do for yourself. 5 minutes. Breathe, get in touch with yourself, maybe set the intention for the day of okay, today I'm going to do this. Or if I'm feeling some negative way or some kind of way, I'll be okay, I feel like this right now, but this is temporary. It'll change, get myself set up and then tackle the day.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned bare minimum because candidly, it's so hard to even get that in nowadays with so much going on at the same time, like you said, and those boundaries that were once there with time zones and locations are sort of blurred now. So you've done your fair share of traveling and you've been, jet setting around, working with different brands and all of that stuff. And in fact, you've worked with some really cool brands, including L'Oreal, Emirates, I'm assuming you've got to travel with them. What has been your favorite collaboration to date and like why?
There's like different things in each brand. I'm super lucky that I've gotten to work with such companies, but I think my favorite would have to be Emirates, just because that was one of my very initial brand trips. And it's super close to my heart because I think I was just starting out in the influencer area. It was probably like a year in or something. And to get that sort of collaboration and the girls that had come on to the trip with me, we became super close. It was just one of those moments where I had to pinch myself and be like, is this really happening? And it really just made me look at content creation in a way of, wow, this can open so many doors. This is not just something that is, it's not just social media. Like there's so many other opportunities that can come from it. So it was one of those pinch me moments. And just such a great trip overall.
That is so, so exciting. I feel like so many people can relate to like now wanting to mix and amalgamate their, creative passions with their career. It used to be so different back in the day. It was like you had your 9 to 5, whatever, puts food on the table. And then if you have any energy left, you can go do your little hobby thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the case anymore. And you're doing that. Do you have any advice for people that are trying to make like career shifts? Because especially in our community, in the South Asian community, a lot of people tend to be pushed towards very, very typical traditional career.
Yeah, I totally get it. And, I think if you're someone who's looking to start out, it's very reassuring to know that there's no one type of person or one type of interest that does well online. Like, whatever your interest is, whatever your personality is, you're going to find your people. I was so happy. I was just in India and I met up with my aunt, and she has always loved cooking. And now she was thinking, after seeing me and my content creation journey, she decided to start her own YouTube channel with cooking tips, especially for younger people who are just getting started, who don't really know how to make like the extravagant things, but like the simple, easy to make, yummy dishes. And I was just so happy to see that. Yeah, I struggled with that, okay? I remember when I was out in LA, I tried to move out to LA before COVID. And the first thing my mom got me was like that masala box and like all the little masalas in there. And I still remember my first time trying to cook dal. I don't know what I did. I mixed too much masala in there. Like there was this huge puff of smoke. The fire alarm started ringing. I was coughing like crazy. It was just a disaster. So
yeah, I think we all have like our dal chawal stories. I had like my Instapot exploded when I was doing it. And there was like, there was like halbi, like, because I mixed halbi in the dal to cook it. And it was just like all over my new apartment. I just started college and I was just like, I want some dal chawal, dude. Like,
that's my same story. All right. I wanted dal chawal. I burnt the rice. I did who knows what to the dal. And then I called my mom crying because I was hungry. And I'm like, there's no food. I burned my food. And now I don't know what to do.
Oh boy. I love that stories like this just really connect us all in a really big way. And a lot of your content is so steeped in your culture and your connection with Indian tradition, being a Bharatanatyam dancer yourself, there's your strong cultural aspect to that'll always be a part of you. How are you able to balance cultural expectations and traditions with now your personal style and creative expression in the United States, because you are US based? And
yeah, I think, what's very unique about Indian Americans, especially in our generation, is that you're like this combination of both the cultures, and now you're this unique blend of the two. So I just try to stay true to myself. Like I remember growing up, because my parents immigrated here with me, there was a very strong emphasis on staying close to your roots, not forgetting your culture. That was also one of the reasons that my mom put me in Bharatanatyam at such a young age, because she wanted to make sure that I had ties to back home. And I remember, even though I grew up in a very diverse town, there's a lot of Indians where I live. We're all kind of struggling with figuring out our own unique blend of how Indian to be, how much of that culture to incorporate into our life, and how to fit in here. And I'm just super grateful that my mom has been such a good role model and such a great support system for me in that sense. I remember one of my earliest memories is bringing Indian food to school for lunch. And I was in kindergarten at the time. And I remember when I opened my lunchbox, the girls that were at my table started making fun of my food. They thought it looked weird. It smelled weird.
Do you remember what was it? What was it?
It was definitely roti, sabji, and dal. I'm pretty sure that's what my mom had done. Yeah, it was like a full on, like 3 different boxes, roti in one, sabji and dal. And I went home that day and I felt really embarrassed of my culture. And I told my mom that, I don't want to bring Indian food to school anymore because people are making fun of me. And her response, like, I admire her so much for this. She said to me, listen, you're going to bring Indian food tomorrow, but tomorrow I'll keep you your favorite thing. I'll keep you some samosa and some pakode. And I'm going to keep you a little extra. And I want you to share this with the girls that are at your table making fun of your food. So I went into school the next day, opened my lunchbox. Again, they were kind of giving me weird looks. And I decided to share some of this samosa and pakoda with them. And from that day on, these girls liked my food so much, they wanted to try Indian food every single day. And it was just one of those early experiences. Yeah, it made me think like, our culture is something that makes us so unique and is so beautiful. And if we can really step into that and embrace it, we can also encourage other people to see its beauty as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's so funny that you mentioned these sort of anecdotes, because I think our experiences as, first generation Americans are so similar. I have talked to so many people that have this. Mine was dosa, okay? Yours was roti and dal and sabji, and mine was masala dosa, okay? And honestly, kudos to you, because I did not have it in me to I gave in. It was really, I gave in that time. I felt really bad about it. And it wasn't until sort of maybe my more formative middle school where I was like, I'm embracing this. I'm making this who I am. And then, like you said, you pick and choose, the best parts of both, which is so exciting. My fiance, his was puri and aloo. Like everybody has their story.
Good. Puri and aloo too, out of all of them. That's like my guilty pleasure. Anytime there's puri made at home, like, yeah, I have to.
Yeah, and don't get me started. Like mango season is coming up, and I don't know if you've tried it with amras, but
amras, yeah, my other guilty pleasure.
So these things, like, I cannot believe I was ever embarrassed, even remotely, of like these sorts of things. And kudos to you for staying true to your roots. Like, I love that it is something that we are trying to embrace wholeheartedly, not just like in a gimmick, it's very different. Very similar to like sort of this idea of having cultural expectations and traditions. Were you sort of pushed earlier on into a more traditional career path?
You know what? I think it was a little mix of both. I definitely felt like my parents, they would have liked that. And like, I also thought that I would be doing something more non-creative. I felt like I would be doing like marketing or being a marketing manager or doing some type of law degree. But, I think also my mom, like I said, she's a huge support system in my life. And she's always encouraged me to think different, think outside of the box, and create my own path. So she was definitely a very strong driving force when it comes to doing a pageant or pursuing modeling and acting. So I'm super grateful.
So for those of you that don't know my background at all, I first learned of Chhavi's existence when I was trying to get into the modeling and pageant space in New Jersey. And I remember, because I'd done pageants in India, and I remember seeing a swimsuit part of this competition, and I freaked out. I was like, I don't know about this one, because it's just there's always that, more conservative side. And I'd never worn a bikini even to the beach or the pool, let alone like for the first time in my life outside of my bathroom mirror, which is the only one that's seen it,
Yeah, I've
To
had
do
that same
that.
experience. No, I've had that same experience. My first time competing, when I saw that there was a swimsuit portion, I was super nervous because I'd only worn one pieces. And that was also just to like swim class and then back, not even wearing a swimsuit at the beach. So it was one of those things where like my parents were not like strict about it or anything. Like like during the pageant itself, growing up, yes, there was that expectation of like, don't wear that. But for the pageant itself, they were pretty open to it. I think the biggest hurdle was for me to feel comfortable in my body. Yeah. And I actually found it to be very empowering in the sense of not even just for the competition, but the process of preparing really made me fall in love with health and fitness and taking care of my body and all those good things that I'm still practicing to this day. So that whole process became a very empowering thing for me.
I totally agree. I had a very, very similar experience, and people just like see it as like, oh, like you're modeling, you're parading your body around, or you're just dressing up and looking pretty, but there's so much more that goes, behind it. So much more, mental training that has to
Oh,
happen.
yeah, absolutely. I think more than anything, preparing for a pageant is the mental training. Because if you think about it, there's so many ways your mind can psych you out. You are surrounded by beautiful women. It's very easy to fall into that trap of comparison, being like, oh, that girl is so beautiful. Like, who am I to be here? Or this girl is like this. She's done this. Like, I'm not like that. It's so easy to do that. But you learn so many other skills through pageantry. You learn interview skills. You learn how to embrace yourself, your authenticity, what makes you you. And I think those are skills that don't just serve you in a pageant setting. They serve you at a work setting. They serve you in life and so many other areas.
Definitely. And you mentioned like, oh, like comparing yourself to other girls or even other people in this creative space. It's such a demanding and often competitive space to be in. I truly believe that like you create your own space and there's space for everybody, but like a little bit of the imposter syndrome kicks in and other self-doubts. You can call it whatever you want, really, but like, how do you overcome that? How do you deal with that head on?
Yeah, I don't think anyone can escape imposter syndrome. I definitely get it from time to time. I think it just comes down to really being confident in what you do, right? Owning your own strengths as your superpower, owning who you are as your superpower, and also surrounding yourself with people who push you up. I truly believe with the right support system, you do have people with that kind of mindset of like, your success doesn't take anything away from me. It actually like elevates all of us. And like really stepping into that pride of like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I've done. And I deserve to be here. I deserve to be in this space. And that's kind of like a mental training, like a daily mental training sort of thing. Yeah. Whether that's affirmations, whether that is talking to your best friend who is also in that same, mindset. It just, you need to work on it daily because it gets all of us.
Great. And like, it must be more, I think, apparent when your like life is on blast, right? Like when we have a social media presence, such a big digital presence, and you're sharing almost every aspect of your life. Like, how do you deal with that type of scrutiny or people, commenting on what you're doing?
It's hard. I'm not invincible to this. It also affects me from time to time. But something that I really started stepping into more is I think I owe it to myself to be my most authentic self online. And that's not to say that I won't make mistakes from time to time. And that's also not to say that other people won't take it one way or, convolute it into something else. But I know in my heart that I always strive to act with my best intentions. And I think that's the most that anyone can do, right? Strive to be your best self, do your best, and learn along the way. So the more that you can step into just owning that, okay, in every single moment, I am being my best self, I am doing my best, it really kind of takes that edge off of wondering what other people will think because you're staying true to yourself and you're doing good by you. And when you have that relationship with yourself, I think other people's opinions affect you a lot less.
I think that's such an important like headspace to be in, whether or not you are a content creator, because it's just the trolls will make their way to you. So have you ever had to deal with like an awkward like situation with like someone trolling you online or in like a comment section of a live?
All the time, all the time. Every time I would go live before, I would have to deal with that. And it just came down to me knowing, hey, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And this person doesn't know me, right? So it's like, why would I believe what someone else is saying about me when they don't even know the full story?
Yeah, totally.
Like my mom knows me, right? She sees me every single day. My friends, my family, my loved ones, they know me. If they have something that they need to say where it's like a constructive criticism sort of thing, then I could take it into consideration. But if it's just some random person who doesn't know you, who's really not saying constructive criticism, they're mostly just trying to criticize for the sake of being mean, I think you just have to kind of detach and be like, wait, who is this person? Do they know me? Does what they hold, like what they're saying holds any weight? And then if the answer is no, then just kind of letting that slide off and being like, okay, well, they don't know me. It doesn't apply to mine.
Right. And like the assumptions also that people make, there's so many of those. I know that I'm not even like a creator or in the public's eye as much, but I remember I was really excited about posting this one reel about my life in London. Like I went to the LSE for grad school and I was like, I created this dope life for myself and I worked really hard to get it. And somebody in the comments was just like, oh, look at you, like wasting, like spending all your dad's money. Like, and I'm like, first of all, you know, like, why is that? It's so toxic, you know?
I think, people also project a lot online. Like sometimes they also don't know why a certain thing is bringing about a certain emotion. But for the most part, I think people who are happy and content with their life don't really go out of the way to bring other people down. You should really check out this TED Talk or the book by Brene Brown. It's like all about vulnerability, like the power of vulnerability. And she's researched vulnerability over many years. The TED Talk is incredible. If you get a chance to read her books as well, she talks about how it's so easy to criticize people without doing things, but it's very brave to put yourself out there. And she references this quote by Theodore Roosevelt called Man in the Arena. And it's easy to be a bystander and make fun of the man in the arena, but the man in the arena is the one that is sweating, putting in the effort every day, showing up, and really taking the courage to put themselves out there. So you definitely check that out. It changes your mindset a lot regarding how to deal with people like that.
Right. And if you think about it, we're all in a public arena now with social media and like everything constantly being like online. So thank you for that. That was, I think that's really helpful for a lot of women who experience this sort of like self-doubt and all of those things. It just gives some nice perspective to all of them. Now, yeah, there's a side that people see. Now, what don't we see? What are we missing that's like not shown, the unedited version, the bloopers?
Well, there is a lot that's not shown for sure.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, I do try my best to put everything out there authentically and just be my authentic self whenever I'm posting. But there are certain things that I also prefer to keep private, right? Like there are certain aspects of your life that you don't want to share publicly. And also in terms of the content creation space, I think it's super easy to see the highlight reel or to see the edited version of the content that you put out, but it's the whole behind the scenes of managing everything, running everything, shooting the content on a daily basis that people don't see, which is definitely not as glamorous. So I'm super grateful I get to do this for work because it's super exciting work, but there definitely is like a whole lot that happens behind the camera where I think one day I should actually have another camera behind the camera while I'm in front of the camera.
That's right. Yeah. Do you have any advice now for like someone who wants to start out in this space and maybe feels a little intimidated?
Well, I think my best piece of advice would be to just do it. And you never know where this is going to take you. I never started posting on social media with the intention of being an influencer or being a content creator or having any of the opportunities that have come my way. It's kind of just been like, let me just try this and see what happens. And I think whether that is in the creative field or whether that is in your personal life, if you have that mentality of let me just try this and see what happens, it's going to take you to places that you would have never imagined. That's happened to me with the pageant. Let me just try this and see what happens. I ended up winning. That happened with content creation. Let me just try this and see what happens. And now it's become one of my careers. It's happening with acting, with modeling. So, I believe we only have one life, and it's a privilege to be able to fulfill your dreams and to try those different things out if you're able to.
Yeah, I think we owe it to ourselves. Like, I just blew up my life last week and quit my job to go and pursue something crazy and completely different. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And I think more people, I think we can give more people, more women, this sort of comfort in knowing that we're just normal people who are just trying to do our thing, and you should probably try and do your thing too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's never too late, right? Like my aunt, she's starting now. She's definitely, I think she just turned 50. So she's just turned 50 not too long ago, and she's inspired to start this YouTube channel, which I think is amazing. And you just, we all start from somewhere. So just take the first step, take that leap, and then keep building on top of it. Consistency is that'll take you so far. So just one foot in front of the other, keep doing it, keep chipping on that, iceberg, and just see where it takes you.
Thank you so much for your time, Chhavi. This was amazing. And I'm really excited for this to be shared and for more people to get inspired by your journey and your story. So thanks for taking the time to be here.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Power Women Unplugged, exclusively on CampusGal. Stay tuned to CampusGal for your regular inspiration fix.